And then you come back and say, मुझे शुरू से लग रहा था. So I said, अगर लग रहा था तो फिर why did you go ahead with it? That's not his fault, no. He
It's
was
your
being
fault.
himself. If you're saying कि मुझे पहले से पता था, so I said then, so it's useless, right? And while it does create for an unpleasant experience, at the end of the day, it's like, man, you don't blame the luthier for all of it. Because any kind of a custom build is a partnership. If your client is not clear in terms of what he's getting, then that's on him.
Yeah. So hello to the good people over the internet. Today we have with us the wonderful Karan Singh, the founder of BigFoot Guitars. Once again, thank you so very much for taking the time out to do this.
Thank you for having me here, man.
Absolutely. So, a really interesting question I was thinking before even thinking of disturbing you on Instagram. That was take us like touch a little bit upon how your childhood went. Like, was it always in music? Your like background was music. You were already very interested in music or wanted to create something. Like, how was it?
My childhood. Um, Good question. I never really thought about it. I don't think I was particularly musically inclined as far as instruments are concerned. We always had music playing in the house. My mom used to be very fond of listening to her old record player. So we had an LP system that was set up, and a lot of the old classics, Beatles, and Simon and Garfunkel, and things like that. That would be playing very regularly. So we grew up listening to a lot of music. I didn't really have any inclination towards picking up an instrument till much later. I think in high school, around class 12 or something like that. That's where I first, thought about, oh, what if I actually play something? And I started off with the drums actually, funnily enough.
Oh.
And I was I was introduced to Metallica, so everything was about
Yeah.
so a whole lot of that happened for a while. And then college started, and then in college I realized it's a little bit challenging to move around with a blooming drum set. And
Yeah.
also because I didn't have a band or anything, I just used to play to have fun, right? And in college I got introduced to the guitar because a whole bunch of people in hostel used to play, so I would hang out with them and learn one chord here and song here. So over a period of a year or two, I increased my massive repertoire to about 4 songs, and that kept me going for quite a while. So I think I mean, it happened later on. It didn't happen early on in my childhood, but there was always music. It was just not about playing instruments. Yeah,
And this is like common in every Indian household. We all have one, our parents listening to old classics and some legends out there. So we all have this habit of okay, we have heard some Kishore Kumar and Beatles and all of that stuff right from the very early childhood.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it was a mix of the old Hindi songs and the old, the English stuff, and they were both really great. So
It's a healthy
I think
diet.
somewhere along the line, it kind of, drives you to try and
Uh-huh.
start creating something later on or at some point. Yeah.
I was about to say it drives you to fail. You pick up a guitar and then realize, oh, it's a mistake.
This is not as
Um,
easy as it looked. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like, in fact, this is the thought I had when I picked up the guitar. I was like, हाँ ये तो बजा लेंगे हम इसमें क्या है, The first riff I took was Fade to Black by Metallica.
Oh,
and
nice.
and it took me like nearly 4 months to perfect it. Horrible option. Really interesting. So, in terms of you doing BigFoot Guitars as a founding BigFoot Guitars, how did that happen? Like, when did you think of okay, I played drums, I played guitar, learned 4 songs. Now what?
Hmm. So after the 4 songs, it was time to step up the challenge level, right?
Now eight
Um,
songs.
yeah. How did I start BigFoot Guitars? Well, long story short, I had a bunch of guitars and I started messing around with them myself because I couldn't find someone to set them up and repair them and keep them in the kind of condition that I would like for basic playability. So I started researching what goes into setting up an instrument. I got hold of some repair books and guides from the US, and I had 5 or 6 guitars with me, so I started playing around with them. And friends of mine started playing those, and then gradually started handing me their guitars, saying, "ये भी ठीक कर दे, ये भी ठीक कर दे." So it kind of organically grew that way. And then finally, one fine day, random strangers started calling me saying, "I've played so and so's guitar. Can you please fix mine? I'll pay you for it." And for me, this was just a fun thing that I was doing in my free time because I had a day job and it was nothing to do with guitars. So I think the interest kind of developed over there. This was about 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
Oh.
And over a period of a year or two, I started assembling some basic tools. I created a little workspace in my basement and thought how difficult could it be to make a guitar. And then I played around with that for a while. So I had to teach myself woodworking first because I didn't know anything about woodworking, forget guitar making. And so just getting familiar with the tools, with the processes, I built a telly, which was as simple a design as I could find at the time. And it's still functional. So strangely enough, that worked out as a first project. It's not beautiful, but it works. And then from there, I just kind of fell in love with the entire process and decided that this is something that I should try and explore.
Hmm.
And over a period of, I think, another 2 years later, I kind of decided that I'd reached the stage where I wanted to give this a 100% effort, from my part. So I've said, let me give it a shot. I'll give it a few years, say 5 years, and then we'll see. If it doesn't work out, I'll go back to my corporate work, and if it works out, then good. So I kicked off and I said, let's do this properly. And I went and studied abroad, learned
Oh.
from other luthiers who are very, very well known in their field, and were kind enough to take me under their wing and explain things to me and teach me how to make better sounding instruments. And so it's been an ongoing journey. And between the US, Canada, parts of Europe, China, Malaysia. So I've been to all these spaces to try and meet builders, to understand their philosophies of putting guitars together, to really tap into what makes a guitar special and
Hmm.
what are the little things that distinguish them from the standard instruments that you would find in a store, right? The idea is to put out the best possible instrument that I can. Otherwise, it's not fun for me. So that's the market segment that I'm targeting, saying, yes, it is going to work out expensive, but then the time that goes into handcrafting a high quality guitar is also ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
Most folks don't consider that when they see the prices. Their standard question is, why is it so expensive if a Yamaha is available at X number of rupees or whatever it is. Uh, and it's a fair question. You know, from their perspective, it's a fair question because no one really knows what goes into it. From the material selection to the actual process of putting a guitar together, it's a
Then
it's
the
a
labor, the
long,
manually, setting up each and everything one by one.
absolutely, it's a hell of a lot of work, man. And irrespective of what price point people put them out at, I have immense respect for anyone who can put together a guitar. It's a really challenging task. And a lot of things that we just take for granted because every guitar in the store looks a certain way, it's really tough to make that happen, right? It takes a lot of patience and a lot of skill.
Hmm.
So that's, and but I enjoy that challenge.
Hmm.
It's exciting for me. It was a new territory. It was something that people in India were not doing. There are guitar makers in the country. There are not a whole lot of people doing it at a level that you can call truly boutique, right?
Mm.
Handcrafting an instrument, even in Kolkata, for example, there've been people making guitars in Calcutta for a long, long time. It has a tradition, right? However, that's at a certain
Ah,
market segment again. I mean, that's at the
exactly.
lower end of the market segment.
Yeah.
And the reason
And
why
those
I
are
did
not
not
the
want to
like
tap into
high-end
that,
instruments also sometimes.
exactly. And the thing is that in the market over here in India, you have tons of options in that price point. You've got
Mm.
like 50 brands ranging from 5,000 rupees to 30, 40,000 rupees. You can, it's just a question of go find a guitar that sounds good to you.
Mm.
But when you're talking about pro grade guitars, there's really not a lot of choice.
Mm.
Everybody goes down to a Taylor or a high-end Martin, and that's pretty much it. And I wanted to offer them something that's a little bit different, something that's truly unique, that's been built to their specs, and not just a guitar that's hanging on a rack which you go and choose. So everything from the wood combinations to trying to fine-tune the tonal output basis what the client is looking for, and to give them and then to create a neck that's comfortable to their hands,
Mm.
things like that. It's just the little things which really help make
Nuances.
that instrument, yeah, to make it unique to that player. And that's what I'm trying to offer at Bigfoot. And it's been fun, man. I mean, it- it's it's an ongoing journey. The learning never stops. I've been doing this for a while now. It's been almost a decade, and put out maybe close 80 odd acoustic guitars and about 40, 50 electric instruments,
Wow.
a bunch of ukuleles, some bass guitars, some classical guitars. So it's been, a fair number of instruments that I've built till now, and it's still a learning process. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that's going to stop, but
Mm-hmm.
that's fun. I enjoy that. I
Yeah.
enjoy trying to inspect even my guitars now and say, okay, for the next one, I need to tweak this, I need to tweak that, and
I have to screw this up.
it just keeps going on.
Wow. I mean, like, do you remember how many hours you like? This is not like it never comes in the forefront of the players who play your instruments or any
Yeah,
luthiers in that matter. How many hours did you like before going outside to study about how to make guitars, the woods, the hardwares, and electronics?
yeah,
How many hours did you put in experimenting and tweaking things yourself in your basement?
almost 3 years, man.
Oh, so like, did you like someone like this? Do you like get this question? Like people ask, like, okay, you make such crafted guitars. How much effort has gone into actually thinking something of this level?
Not really. Most people don't. They just don't. It's not a question I get very often because I think it's also, from a musician standpoint, when they come and visit the workshop, I assume it's also a little overwhelming because there's so much stuff to see. There's, pieces of half built guitars that are in progress. There's fixtures and templates and machinery. And so it's just so exciting and overwhelming that they are happy to see whatever is happening at that particular point,
They're
right?
like
But
blank.
to exactly, it's like whatever information you give me is great because it's exciting and it's new and it's different from anything I've seen. The experience is totally different from visiting a guitar store, right?
Mhm.
And I think for someone to actually deep dive and get into what went into creating this entire setup is a whole different thing. I mean, maybe guitar makers would ask, but not so much the musicians, at least.
Mhm.
So it is what it is, and it's fine. There is because there's no end to it, right? I mean, I don't have a fixed. I mean, I've got a layout that's working for me now. In 6 months, I'll change something else. I'll change a
Mm.
process. I'll change the way in which I approach building a neck. Trying to find more technology that I can use because there are newer machines coming out every day. There's newer
Mhm.
ways of doing things. I'm trying to embrace whatever I can in order to put out a better quality guitar, right? While at the same time becoming more efficient at what I do. Because at
Mhm.
the moment, if I'm building 15 guitars in a year, I want to be able to increase that or double it at some point, right?
Mhm.
And in order to do that, I don't want to be hiring four more people I want to
Mm.
be building the guitars, but I need to do it. I need to change the way in which things are happening in order for that
Yeah.
to become physically
Happen.
possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the dream is not to make a massive workshop and have 20 employees. That's not what I'm looking at. It's I have one apprentice with me, and he's doing a great job, and he's that's about it. I'm not really looking to expand that in terms of manpower. I think it's just more about how to approach putting those instruments together. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to say. Wait. um, like, are your mornings like this? People get up, chalo yaar, office jana, and you're like, chalo, let's get up, we have to build a guitar.
My
Let's assemble the
mornings,
neck today.
so my brain doesn't really switch off. It just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. That's I'm hardwired that way. I'm a very early riser, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm normally awake by eh, around 5:30. I'm
Oh.
up. The last few days have been a bit ridiculous. I've been getting up at 4 o'clock thanks to my dog, uh, who needs to go out and pee. So it's not fun because I can't go back to sleep. Um,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, but yeah, no, I get up early. I spend a lot of my when I'm not in the workshop. I think subconsciously, or you know, even when I'm just hanging out, having a cup of coffee, my brain is perpetually thinking about what needs to be done next, how it needs to be done, how it
How to
could be
improve,
done
how to
more
scale.
efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, or I don't wake up and then get to the workshop and then plan out my day. When I'm at the workshop, I walk in and there's already three things in my head that I know we need to get cracking with, so it's on. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it's you can go. One is to romanticize it and say, oh, you're passionate about what you do. You're passionate about what you do. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Passion is one part of it, but the other part of it is you just have to find meaning in what you're doing, man.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not meaningful to you, then it always turns into I like doing these three things, but I hate doing these three things, no matter what job you look at. And that's always going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially with people who are running small setups, which are their own independent businesses in their own way, whether you're a musician, whether you're a builder, whether you're doing anything else. I think the idea is to make the work meaningful to you. Once it's meaningful, it doesn't matter whether I'm building or whether I'm talking to a client or whether I'm, procuring raw materials. It's all the
Mm-hmm.
same. Yes, there
Mm-hmm.
are always going to be certain steps that I enjoy more than others, but at the same time, uh, I'm not necessarily cursing the fact that I need to do a certain thing on a given day. I used to. I definitely used to, but that mindset has kind of shifted over the last few years. Now it's just straight up. I mean, we need to get work done. We need to get the business moving. Whatever it takes,
Get shit
it's
done.
going to happen. Get it done. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, that uh, the feeling of
Uh-huh.
having achieved something is great. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that includes all the the groundwork, the kutta kam,
Exactly.
as we
Mm.
say, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's as much a part of it as anything else is. So there's no point in ignoring it and pretending it doesn't exist or that it's the worst thing ever. Because I'm an introvert. I'm not a big fan of talking to human beings. But at the same time, if I don't talk to human beings, it's a little bit difficult for me to sell guitars, right?
Yeah.
So it's if you have to do it, you have to do it, man. And then you get good at it. And at some point you realize that, okay, some of these guys are really, really nice people. So
Mm-hmm.
in a way, I'm glad that I ended up getting to know them at a slightly deeper level over the course of building a guitar. It's a
Mm-hmm.
relationship you develop because
Yeah.
clients are waiting for 1.5 years for an instrument, right? And there's a lot of conversations that will happen.
Yeah.
And some of them will be about the guitar, and then it just kind of goes into knowing the person better. And so it's a pretty cool thing because at the end of that uh, process, not only have you sold a guitar, but at the same time you get to know some really cool people and who are
Mm-hmm.
doing really amazing stuff in their fields. So it's nice. Yeah. Overall, I think it works out. In 10 years, I mean, I've literally had like maybe one bad experience. I can't even call it a bad experience. Just one experience that wasn't so exciting or wasn't particularly positive, which is a pretty good ratio. So I'm happy with that.
9:1.
By and large, it's yeah. I mean, by and large, it's a good bunch of people. Getting to know musicians, and uh, they come to you when they're ready. I'm not force selling anything to anyone. I'm not
Mhm.
undercutting, in terms of pricing, saying if this one's giving it to you for X amount, I'll give it to you for X minus 10%. If you want a guitar from me, come talk to me. You don't want a guitar from me, I'll still talk to you and I'll recommend three other people. It's okay. It's not the
Mhm.
end of the world. I don't look at it as a massively competitive business in India because it isn't,
Mhm.
right? I think there are like maybe 8, 10 builders in the country who are selling guitars. So in a country of 1.5 billion, if 8 or 10 people can't sell guitars, then there's something wrong with the guitars they're making. It's not to do with eating into each other's clients, right? I mean, you're from New Delhi, you've got 40 million people living there. So if you can't sell 10 guitars in a year or 15 guitars a year, there's really something that's not on,
Something
that's not
needs
someone
a
else's
check.
fault. Yeah, exactly. So those insecurities, they don't exist in my head. I'm happy. The more builders that keep coming up in the country, I'm very happy. I think it
Mhm.
helps the market as a whole, because this whole concept of custom instruments and boutique stuff, it's new in India,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it's going to take 10, 15 years, 20 years for it to kind of reach a certain critical mass when enough people are aware of it.
Mhm.
So right now I'll get messages on Instagram from smaller towns, places that are not the 4, 5 major metros, and folks are zapped because they have no idea that these things exist, and that guitars can cost so much money, and that so much work can go into it, and that it can be so intricate. But at the same time, I don't mind talking to them. I know they'll never buy a guitar, or at least not this generation, maybe in 10 years, and that's okay. But at least they know that this exists now. So it's somewhere in their, chain of thought when they're considering an instrument down the line.
Mhm.
So I think overall, from a market awareness standpoint, it's good that people are starting to do this. There's a lot of youngsters trying to get started. I get emails from them every week. I offer whatever guidance I can, and I occasionally run courses where I teach them how to, build an acoustic. So it's nice, man. I think it's good that people are trying to explore different things. And is it difficult? Yeah, it is. And the first
Hmm.
question they'll say is, "Oh, can I survive in this line?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know. That's up to you. I can teach you a skill. I can't guarantee your success in this field. I'm not a placement agency. You know,
Even placement agencies
it's
can't
tough to you
guarantee.
can't. Yeah, I mean, it
Oh
comes down
God.
to what you're willing to do and how much work you're willing to put into it, and how smart you are and how skilled you are, and all of those things. And if you
Hmm.
can get that combination going, then sure, there's no reason why you shouldn't be successful. Is it the best way to become a millionaire? Absolutely not. But is it fun? Yeah, it is.
You can't plan a retirement with this.
You can't. You really can't. I mean, it's just that's not being realistic. That's all. At least not at this point. In today's state in India, I don't think it's realistic. But is it
Hmm.
fulfilling? Is it rewarding? Yes, it is. Yeah,
Hmm.
but that's just what it is, man.
So I'll give the title of the video as "You Can't Plan Your Retirement." Feat Karan Singh. um, so do you remember what's the first guitar you made professionally and sold it? So how was the feeling of it? And which time was this? Like 2012, 30?
Mm, the first one that I sold, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to remember. Yeah, I think it was around 2013, was it? 2014. It was
Mm-hmm.
summer of 2014, I think, where I finally sold. I'd built a few by then, and then I'd decided to try and sell first. So I had, fortunately for me, I had 2, 3 friends who were looking to pick up acoustics, and they were kind enough to invest in a brand that hadn't even really woken up or been born, and invest in a guy whose guitars weren't out there, for which I'm eternally grateful. But I mean, it was a really nerve-wracking affair. Definitely a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. Having said that, more than 100 instruments later, it's still the same when a guitar is going out. If really, I'm not kidding. I mean, the day a guitar is getting picked up by a client, if I'm shipping it out, it's still okay because I'm not physically there when the guy opens it.
Mm,
But very often, a client will fly down to pick up the guitar and also meet me and just see if everything is up to what they need in case there's any tweaking needed. And I'm still shitting bricks, man, when they, first pick up the guitar. It's equal parts of excitement and pride and nervousness and anxiety and being like, oh God, is he going to like it? Is he not going to like it? What's going to happen? Is it comfortable for him? Is it not? Is it resonant enough? So I think those questions are always going to be there.
mhm,
But it's very satisfying to see their expressions when they play the guitar for the first time and are usually pretty blown away by how a guitar can sound. Again, largely because a lot of the experience with guitars is up to the mid-range Taylors or the mid-range Martins. And then from there, suddenly you go to an instrument that is really responsive. There's nothing wrong with the Martins and Taylors. That's not the point of this. I think it's just you're approaching a completely different market segment and a completely different price point. So the
mhm,
products are different. That's all it is,
mm, mm,
right? It's like buying a car. You can buy the fanciest cars and you can buy a Maruti 800. Both will take you to your destination. How do you want to get there, right?
mm,
And so for those who need the little things, you're a professional player, you've been playing for 15 years, chances are you're very clear in your head about what you want from a guitar.
mm,
And if you're still searching for a guitar, it's because you're not able to find a combination of all those elements in one instrument. You may have six guitars and they combined, they will all have the qualities that you want.
mm,
One
mm,
may have the neck that's comfortable, one may have the body shape that's comfortable, one may have the sound that you like. But trying to put it all together is where the real challenge comes in. And so it's fun, man. I mean, yeah, it's stressful but exciting.
So you've built guitars for so many musicians. You've walked in the industry for a long time. Now this is a greedy question I have. What are the three
Hmm.
most asked questions to you from the entire industry or till the people you have worked with?
Hmm. Hmm. Why are the guitars so expensive? The second one would be, how does this wood compare to rosewood?
Uh-huh.
And can I get my guitar in the next 2 months? I
and,
think
an-
these would
and
probably
answer
be
to
the
all,
most common ones.
and the answer to all of that question is no, no, no.
Oh man. See, the comparison, why are they expensive? Then I have to sit and explain to them what goes into the handmade guitars, and it's not a mass production model. The business model doesn't allow it. It's as simple as that.
Mm,
Uh, I'm buying materials which are of the highest quality,
mm,
and factories operate in the opposite direction. They need to buy 10,000 back and sides for acoustic guitars at a time.
mm,
So they are more concerned with defect-free pieces, but as cheap as it gets, right? Luthiers, on the other hand, are looking for the best possible sets they can get because you're going to put in 3 months into building one guitar. You want that guitar to be bloody good and
yeah.
beautiful and all of that, right? You don't have the luxury of saying, Acha, you don't like this, I'll give you three more options to choose from. It's built, like. So uh, I'm, I'm trying, or people like me, we try to extract everything we can, and that involves using the best possible raw materials. It's like cooking. You can cook with crap
Mm,
vegetables, you can cook with really fresh, organic, farm-grown vegetables, and there is going to be a difference in the flavor of your food. So guitars are pretty much the same thing. My cost of materials for a guitar is usually, you know, maybe two and a half, three times what a factory-made guitar would cost you in a shop. That's just the cost of my materials. So when people say I want a guitar for 20,000 rupees, I can't help them because my tuners cost about that, right? And again, are there cheaper tuners available? Yes. I don't work with them.
You'll get other dealers for that, other brands for that.
You have other, I mean, there are people who do. I don't. And I'm very open with that. I don't want anything that I feel is remotely substandard leaving my workshop, because that's my reputation at stake. And people come to me because they want a really high quality product. And over the last decade, that is the reputation that I've been working hard to build. And hopefully it's there, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is to keep that going. I don't want people to second guess and say, why did you use this hardware and not that? So I start with, okay, what's the Rolls Royce version of the tuners? That's what's going on my guitars, full stop.
Wow.
From there, you can go up. It's not going to go down.
So these are the
You may get
basic
a few more
things.
options.
You can
The base level.
then
Yeah, right. And when you start adding up all those little things, it makes a tremendous difference in cost to the instrument. Because again, I'm not buying these in bulk. I'm not buying 1,000 sets of tuners at a time, right? They're not being manufactured in China. So, like I said, it's just a different business model, man. I mean, when you're buying stuff like this, everything just becomes more expensive. The amount of time that goes into it, um, it's per my per hour earning, right? For the amount of time that I put into a guitar is probably
hourly
less than
salary.
what I was earning. Yeah, it's probably half of what I was earning 15 years ago when I was in the corporate world. So, but at the same time, it's just something I want to do. So I'm trying to make it work with
So anyway, I'll do
what
it.
I've got. Yeah, basically. That's basically what it is. Right. And then, yeah, in terms of timelines, the other answer is this. Timelines, I understand it, and it takes a lot of cajoling sometimes with clients. But see, the thing is, I'm a one-man shop. Well, now a two-man shop.
So BigFoot
People,
Guitars is
like I
now two
said,
people only.
yeah, it's just two of
So
us
you've been doing this alone for like past a decade.
for about a decade, yeah.
How did you make that work? Oh my God.
You just do it. That's my point. Like that's the thing. Now that this is one of those things that when people who want to become luthiers come and ask me saying, "Will I succeed?" I'm like, dude, I don't know. It's like, how much of a beating are you willing to take?
Exactly.
Right? How much perseverance do you have? Because, and this is not just my story. This is pretty much every luthier in the world, irrespective of country. Right? This is what it is. It's a hell of a lot of work with not a lot of return in terms of finances. A lot of quality of return in terms of getting to meet great musicians, listening to them play your instruments, a lot of pride in your work, yes. Feel good, yes. But it's not like walking into an office every day and coming back after 8 hours saying, okay, end of the month, I'm getting my salary. There is no salary, right? You've got to make sure. And when you've got workshop rents, you've got to buy machinery, you have to buy raw materials. I mean,
Upfront costs.
it's like clients will ask for Brazilian rosewood on their guitar. I can buy Brazilian rosewood. It's like $2,000 a set for me. That's my cost. Plus shipping, plus customs, plus the paperwork, which is another couple of $100.
Uh-oh.
Right. So, and that's not the guitar, that's just the back end sides, raw material cost.
Oh.
So it's very easy to turn around and say, oh, why is this guitar costing $10,000? I'm like, man, when you ask for a combination like this, it's going to cost you money.
Exactly.
I'm not saying this is the only thing on offer, but yeah, I mean, if you come to me with a specific list, I can only work out a costing and give it to you. So
Exactly.
that's just what it is, man. I mean, you don't want this, sure, your prices will come down, and that's fine. Uh, but if this is what you're looking for, this is what it's going to cost. And so then the collectors invariably end up ordering those kind of guitars. Most of the professional players want something that's more value for money, saying, okay, it's too much for me to invest in the fanciest woods, but give me something that's going to keep me going and still sound amazing. Then we have options in that kind of price point and everything in between, man. But that's the fun of it because everything is custom. So there is no fixed, okay, this will only come with a mahogany back inside. This will only come with Indian rosewood. It's, man, whatever floats your boat. If you're willing to do it, I will build it for you.
If not, then uh-oh.
If not, then
Wow.
like I said, I can always recommend a couple of other people to do. But
Mhm.
that's your choice.
Best. That's the best.
Yeah.
um, Here's an interesting question for you. What do you think about the what are your thoughts on the music industry of India?
My thoughts on the music industry. I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question. Really,
Um,
I mean, to be honest, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a complete recluse. I'm an introvert. I don't follow most things that are happening in the world.
mhm,
Um, I lead a very isolated life.
mhm,
Like the two kids, two dogs, wife, and work keep me more than busy, and I quite like it that way, to be honest. Um, I think in terms of from the little bit that I know that's going on around, I think it's in an interesting space. It's in an interesting phase right now, just largely because I think there's a lot of people pushing themselves to do different stuff now. I think the time of doing classic rock or variations of classic rock and blues, much as I love them, I'm a big classic rock and blues fan myself. So it's nothing against that. I just think the musicians now are kind of pushing themselves to explore different kinds of music. They're playing around with different sounds, a whole different
mhm,
experience when you're actually listening to their tracks. And this is not specific to the kind of music that they play on my instruments. It's just generally what I've been hearing uh, on Spotify or
mhm,
whoever sends me a link saying check this out. And I think it's cool because there's a lot more variety that I'm hearing now. And at the same time, I think it's a lot more. Uh, I want to say straight from the heart, but that's not the right term. I think it's more original in a way
uh-huh,
because they're really trying to do their own thing, whether it's through the lyrics, whether it's through the melodies. I think that there's a strong sense of identity that's coming out
mhm,
across different genres. So if I listen to Bloodywood, for example, which is this crazy metal band, right?
mhm.
Um,
You actually
I
built a
don't
guitar
listen to
for
metal.
Karan. I saw that.
That's right. And if I'm being brutally honest, I didn't know of Bloodywood. I really
Mhm,
didn't until
mhm.
my apprentice Pushkar and he came into the workshop one day and he said, "Dude, you've got to talk to this guy. He's also Karan and he plays with this band called Bloodywood." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, okay." And he was like, "Oh, they play metal and it's Punjabi and it's Hindi." Trying to, in my brain, I was trying to put it all together. And then he said they also have a dhol with their guitars. And I was like, dude, this makes perfect sense because why would metal
Mm,
not have a dhol? Like it's such a great
mhm,
combination. And then I had
mhm.
heard some of their music. This was about a year ago now, last
I'm
Jan,
blown
I think.
away.
And yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan. I mean, and it's
Mhm,
got nothing to do with me building them a guitar. It's just
mhm.
I heard their stuff and my 3-year-old is in love with them. Every morning I come down at to make coffee, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, my younger son has Alexa playing one of their songs at full
Oh,
blast. And like, that's a great start to your day, dude. These guys are
yeah.
"Jee
Ah,
wow, okay, why not? And he's gone and informed everybody in his play school that
if you're not listening to
these
Bloodywood,
guys, we know
you're
these. My
stupid.
papa knows these guys. He's like, my
Mm,
papa knows these guys, and they're like, but who is this? And he's like,
mm.
नहीं नहीं आपको नहीं पता बहुत अच्छा music है. He's given
आप नहीं
so
समझोगे.
आप नहीं समझोगे. While they're busy doing nursery rhymes, he's listening to Bloody Wood. So it works. So I think in that sense, it's good. I'm also exploring and finding out new stuff, which is it's a refreshing change for me because I've been stuck in my ways for a very, very long time. And
Mhm,
though I love the music I listen to, it's good to hear something that's just completely different, and at the
mhm,
same time has the ability to blow your mind. So it's fun, man. Again, it's one of the perks of being in this line of work because artists who are very, very good at what they do, but I just don't know them because I'm an
mhm.
idiot. They'll get in touch and say, oh, I'm looking for so and so kind of instrument. And I'll say, send me some links of your music, and they'll send it across. And I'm like, wow, why do I not know of you? And then I feel like a bigger jackass but it's okay. At least I heard their music, at the end of it. So
Mhm.
that's nice.
Really interesting. So like, is this also the reason that there are like few guitar makers and luthiers in India? Because it's a new emerging market that has come to India. Like it will grow in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Right.
I definitely think it will grow. Um, I think the reason why more people are not doing it right now is because most of them don't understand the business side of it.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Or musicians in general, they don't understand the business side. Like a lot of them.
yeah, I mean, see, the difference is between having a product and being able to make people want that product.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could build the fanciest guitar in the world and the best sounding guitar in the world, and that's all very well. But if nobody knows who you are and nobody is aware of
Knows your
what you
brand.
can do and what your brand is and what you stand for and what values you are trying to drive through that brand, it's a losing effort.
Mm.
Right? Now you can, in a corporate, you would hire a marketing head for something like that. With a one-man show, which is what every luthier is pretty much, you have to be able to do that, right? To be able to find the right audience for your things. Now, the guys who are starting out, or even some who've been doing this for a while, to date are still unaware of who their target audience is. Yes, I'm making tracks. Yes, I'm making tellies. Yes, I'm making XYZ. Um, and that's not the important part, in my opinion,
Mm.
because there's several people in the world who make amazing guitars, right? So making the guitar is one part of it. As difficult and complicated as that is, that's the easy part, right? Or at least that, because that's in your control. It's a question of putting in the effort, developing the skill set, and being patient enough to execute. So,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, that's the easy bit because I can control all parts of that. What I cannot control is how do I tap into the most famous guitarist in the country?
Mm.
How do I tap into people who play fingerstyle acoustic, for example, or whatever it is, right?
Mm.
Now I need to develop a relationship with them. I need to explain to them what I do, why I do it. I need to not be giving them sales pitches because that just doesn't work with anybody. And I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
stupid way to approach this kind of work, right? This is boutique work, it's custom work, it's something that people should be coming to you for when, as and when they're ready. You can't force sell it. It's
Ah.
not like, oh, there's a Diwali discount here, take 15% off and buy my guitar. That doesn't work. It rarely
Diwali
works.
discount. This
Yeah, I
sounds
mean,
nice.
so I think that's where a lot of the people get stuck, and that's really difficult. It is difficult because you're tapping into, first of all, musicians, and 99% of them haven't yet officially made it. Even the
Mhm.
famous ones are not able to generate the kind of income that they would ideally like to and that they ideally deserve,
Mm.
right? As a result of that, for them, when they need to buy tools, that's all we're making is tools for them, right? And when they need to invest in tools, it becomes much tougher for them to then pick up something that is of this caliber,
Mm.
right? It's not their fault. It's just this is the system in India right now. Everybody wants to do all clubs. Everybody wants to be able to play for free or play for exposure, play for two bottles of rum and 15,000 rupees for a band. And at the end of the day, it's a joke. It's like, man, for me to even expect them to come to me is stupid, right?
Mm.
And much as I would like to build something for them, it's a complete mismatch in terms of
Yeah.
me trying to do that.
The thing is not there to.
Exactly.
Mm.
So identifying who you're going to sell to, how are you going to sell it to them? How are you creating your brand and how are you putting that brand out there? How are you developing a reputation for yourself? And what is
Ah.
that reputation?
Mm.
And really seriously understanding the implications of that reputation, right? A client comes to me, I don't like his face, I tell him to bugger off. I feel like a very cool guy, and then the next thing I know on social media, there's an entire shit show that's going on. or whatever it is. That's just a one silly little example, but it happens very often, right? Don't go to so and so repair person, don't go to so and so guy because this is my and everyone's taking screenshots of everything nowadays. So as long
Yeah.
as you've sent a WhatsApp, it's the entire thread is there, and then
Yeah.
you've got
And
five
they'll
million
be
people
out,
abusing
that will
you.
be out on Facebook. It's like, ye dekho, ye banda hai na.
Exactly, right? And that's all it takes to basically kill the business of a one-man shop. That's all it takes. You
Hmm.
need one such incident, and that is it.
One screenshot.
Right? Just one. Right? Um, so I think balancing these things is that's the challenge is managing all of this, putting it all together and saying, okay, does this have the capability to handle all of the rest?
Mhm.
Where everyone kind of gets stuck in the building community is 99% of the effort goes into building, and then they're stuck. Like, अच्छा ठीक है अब गिटार बन गया मैं इसका क्या करूं?
खुद ही बजा लो.
Or all my friends are musicians, my friends are musicians, and it's great to have musician friends who want you to build stuff for them. But at the same time, if they're playing two or three small club shows in a month, the
Mhm.
kind of budget that they're going to come to you with is not what's going to help you make a high-end instrument
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
So yes, you can make another, 30,000, 40,000 rupee guitar, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then you're making life more difficult for yourself because now every single thing that you make is at par with your Mexican strats or your Mexican delis or whatever, that price point. So if I come to your workshop and I see that, oh, your finished work is not great or something is the frets are popping out a little bit at the ends, then I'm thinking, why am I not just going to Furtado's or whoever else or any of the stores and just buying a guitar? And it comes with
Mhm.
a 1 year warranty, it comes with a hard case, we'll throw in some offers, blah, 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 whatever it
Some
is.
strings and etc. picks.
Jo bhi hai. The point is that's just how the mind works. You start
Mhm.
comparing, you start saying A, B, acha, but this or that or this or that. And it becomes tough. And then at that point, when they go to the luthier and say, why am I coming to you? It's really difficult to answer that. So then it just becomes, acha, nahi chahiye, to chao. And
Then
then your
also it becomes
reputation
a
gets hit
screenshot.
again. Exactly. And that's exactly what happens,
Mhm.
right? And then it just becomes a bitch fest. Someone will call me and say, "Oh, I went to so and so guy. इसने ये किया, उसने वो किया." And the first thing I tell them is, "I don't want to hear about your bad experience with somebody else, man."
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
No back bitching.
Because there's going to be two sides to every story. I know literally every single builder there is in this country at a personal level, and I know
Mhm.
these guys, and they're all trying to do the right thing.
Mhm.
Right? Again, I think the problem is more that there's no awareness in terms of what goes into putting this together
Yeah, exactly.
from the client standpoint. And from the builder
Mhm.
standpoint, I think there's not enough awareness of how to run it as a business.
Hmm.
And that mismatch creates problems.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a bitch fest, I step out of it. I'm like, man, leave me out of it. If you need me to repair something for you, I can have a look at it. You want me to build you a guitar, I'll build it. But you call me saying XYZ is doing this, that, the other, it's okay.
Sorry,
You know,
boss.
that's not my scene because it doesn't help. It's not productive in any way. It's not
Mhm.
going to help me make a better guitar for you, and it's not going to help me feel sorry for you. It's okay. Like you
I
went
just
into
don't
your,
know.
if you went to somebody and you went through the process of waiting for 3, 4 months and seeing the guitar come together, you went into it with your eyes open. You tried the
Mhm.
guy's guitars, you've spoken with the guy, and then you come back and say, मुझे शुरू से लग रहा था. So I said, अगर लग रहा था तो फिर why did you go ahead with it? That's not his fault, no. He
It's
was
your
being
fault.
himself. If you're saying कि मुझे पहले से पता था, so I said then, so it's useless. Right? And while it does create for an unpleasant experience, at the end of the day, it's like, man, you don't blame the luthier for all of it.
Mhm.
Because any kind of a custom build is a partnership. If your client is not clear in terms of what he's getting, then
Mhm.
that's on him.
Yeah.
If you're not getting a spec list from the luthier, then you should ask for that before the build starts.
Mhm.
If you want to know every single detail, what tuners are going, what fret wire is being used, what is the radius on my fretboard, ask no.
Exactly.
You have to do some research. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
of
point of
course.
getting a custom made guitar. If you're not doing your research, then it's not the other guy's fault.
Hmm. So the other guy will put, the Rolls Royce tuners, and you will be like,
Yeah,
ये कैसा tuner दे, इससे भी high quality चाहिए.
exactly. Or इससे low चाहिए और जो भी है. I mean,
Mhm.
those. conversations can keep happening. The point is that openness and that clarity needs to be there in the communication with the builder.
Yeah.
And I tell this to all these guys who are building as well. I'm like, man, the client is not coming to you just for a guitar. The client needs to buy into you. If he does not buy into you, he's never going to be happy with whatever you make for him, whether it's a guitar or a Bluetooth speaker. It doesn't matter. The guy needs to have faith in you, needs to understand and believe that you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about.
And that makes
And on
sense.
your end, if you're committing to something, then you jolly well very deliver that. That's the
Yeah.
other problem. Everybody likes to overcommit, right? You want this from features from a $10,000 guitar. Yeah, I'll give it to you. For how much? 50,000. I'll make it. Nahi banega, yaar. I mean, but then at the time of making a sale, everybody wants to do that because it's easier to help convince the other party. It will play just like that. It will sound just like that. No, it won't. You know,
Of
people are
course.
not stupid. Will it be similar? Sure, it can be similar. Is it going to be necessarily as good or as smooth or as beautiful? No, it won't, man. It just won't. And as a client, if you're expecting that, then you're stupid. Because there's a reason a Lamborghini costs what it does and Maruti 800 costs what it does,
For sure.
right? Or you do an iPhone and Micromax comparison. They both work and they're both perfectly okay, but there are certain differences that are the little things will show up. I mean, that's what you're charging for, is to pay attention to the details. You can't walk in there saying, I want it bespoke, I want it customized, I want attention to detail, but I'm going to pay you a factory price guitar rate. That doesn't work.
10,000 रुपए में I want a $20,000 guitar.
On Instagram, I keep getting these kids, the 16, 17-year-olds who keep messaging, asking. So I tell them the prices. Then they'll say, oh, do I need to sell one kidney or two? I was like, man, I can't advise you on how many kidneys to sell. That's your decision. But when you do, please come back to me.
I'll build you a guitar for sure.
Yeah. I was like, please, I'm pretty sure one kidney should cover the cost, but आपकी मर्जी है कितने बेचने हैं वो आपके ऊपर है. Right. So having, I think, a little bit of awareness of what's going on. The main thing is, again, even for clients, right? I mean, it's about doing, like I said earlier, do a bit of research.
Yeah.
You want a custom piece, then get onto Google, do a search, find out what custom guitars cost, who's making the best custom guitars in the world. See their work, see their price list,
What are the
see
materials
their wait
used? How
times,
will it sound?
what are
And
the
this and that.
materials used, listen to their demo videos, right? Read the feedback, see who are the musicians who are playing the guitars. And then you have some kind of a base understanding of, all right, if this is where the top guys are, what are the mid-range guys doing? What are the lower end guys doing? But you
You
then
can
have
filter
some
out
kind of
then.
a rough idea. You figure out, and you realize, or you can then figure out where you want to fit into that system as a client.
Exactly.
Yeah. But just going in blind and then saying, "Arey, but in the shop it's this." So it's
Go to
just,
the
I
shop.
mean, it's laziness more than anything else. It's laziness because in today's day and age, it's not needed. Everything is available online. All the info you need is on YouTube and on Google. It's all there, man. But you need to spend those, few minutes reading
For
up on it.
sure. And like
Do a
when
bit
you're
of
investing
homework.
money into getting something, you need to do the research at least. I think that's
Yeah.
the golden rule.
I'll have boys who are too busy to visit the website. I'll be like, can you send me links of the relevant model from your website? I'm like, man, it takes you 10 seconds to type in BigFoot Guitars. See the website. Every single specification for the models is mentioned over there. The shape is there.
देखो.
The gallery is there. The video demos are all linked over there. So dekh to le yaar. And if you don't find something, then tell me and I'll happily tell you whatever you want. But at least spend that 2 minutes.
Do the effort.
वो नहीं, उतना भी नहीं करना है. It has to come to me on a platter. Yeah.
Typical Indian household thinking. My God, this is the interesting thing. Give us three like tips for artists and musicians, like one from the builder's perspective and two from playing music for a living.
I don't know anything about playing music for a living, man. If I started trying to play music for a living, I would be on the streets. Because in the last 20 years, those 4 songs are still 4 songs, right?
Oh, okay. So it's four songs.
But
Four songs have not become 8 songs. The plethora is same.
there was a time when maybe they reached 6, but then I don't really play too much anymore.
Mhm.
But in terms of, I think your instruments, I think keeping them safe, keeping them sound, keeping them well cared for,
Mm.
uh, will go a long way in keeping your instrument from going out
Mm.
of whack. A lot
Yeah.
of musicians love to just have their guitars lying around the rooms, and I get it.
Yeah.
I do that myself as well, but the difference is I'm not worried about it because I can fix whatever keeps happening with it, right?
Mhm.
And
I
things
have
will
the
move,
tools.
and they do move. I have the tools, I have the knowledge, so that's why I'm a lazy bum. So I always have a guitar lying around. But that's really not in India. That's just a bad idea in most places,
Mm.
right? Being aware of what the temperature and humidity levels are
Yeah.
in the room that you store your guitar it's a big deal. So what I tell most clients initially is buy a hygrometer. It's a little device that shows you the humidity levels and the temperature, and it's really cheap. It's maybe 600-700 bucks on Amazon.
Mhm.
Keep it next to wherever you store your guitar, and you want that humidity level to be between 40 to about 50-55%, no less than 40,
Mm.
no more than 55. If it goes under 40, it's too dry. You need to
Oh.
humidify the air. You need
Oh.
more water in the air. So the easiest way is to bring in a couple of plants and keep them in your room, right? Or you
Oh.
can buy a
Wow.
humidifier. You can invest in machines, but those then you're spending a lot of money.
Mm.
If it goes above 50, 55, then it's getting too humid, which means the wood is going to swell up. It's going to
Oh.
absorb moisture, and your action will go high, which typically
Okay.
happens in the monsoons. To combat
Mhm.
that, you need to remove moisture from the air. That's much tougher than adding moisture to the air. So to remove moisture, you need a dehumidifier, which works out ridiculously expensive. Uh, which is why I say keep your guitars in the case. And if you need to, you can get a pouch, put some charcoal in it, and just leave it in the case, or put some
Okay.
raw, dry rice, right? Anything that absorbs moisture. And then every week you
Oh.
can just swap it out. Or you can pop that rice in the microwave for 30 seconds or a minute just for it to dry out again, and then put the pouch back in, right? Those
Oh.
are simpler solutions. The reason I say keep it in the case is because it's much easier to control the environment inside a case than it is to control a room.
Mm-hmm.
So take
Exactly.
it out, play it, and then put it back,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you don't do that, that's also fine. But then be prepared to have your guitar set up 3 or 4 times a year. Then don't complain about that. It's not the guitar's fault.
Be ready to
Wood
contact
is going
BigFoot
to move.
Guitars.
That's just what wood does. Even my guitars will do that, right? If people will call me and say, "Can you make a guitar for the Indian climate?" There is no such thing. It's wood,
Indian
right?
climate.
And wood is going to do what wood does, and wood absorbs moisture and loses moisture. That's just the nature of wood. And
Mm-hmm.
to you can combat that by buying a carbon fiber guitar, and that's great. It will not move. You can take it kayaking and play it on your kayak, and that's fantastic. It just never sound like a wood guitar. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're planning to get yourself something that's a good quality instrument, good quality doesn't mean that it will not move. Good quality means it's going to sound amazing and play really comfortably, but you have to take care of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Coming back to my favorite car analogies, you're not going to leave a super fancy car just, in a messy area where the birds pooping on it or tree branches or fruit falling on top of it. You'll cover it. You'll keep it in the
Mm.
shade. You'll do things like that,
Utmost care. Mm.
right? You'll take care of it. And that's all it is. If the room is too warm for you to sit in, the guitar should not be there.
Mm.
If it's too cold for you to sit in, the guitar should not be there.
Mm. So somewhere in the
Right? If
middle.
you're uncomfortable, yeah, if you're comfortable in that room, the guitar should be all right.
Okay.
But
Well,
simply
I
putting
didn't
it in
knew
the case
this.
and then chucking
This
it,
temperature and the humidity stuff. That's interesting. Like
yeah,
40
the,
degree,
the humidity and
40%,
temperature will,
55.
yeah, I mean, ideally 40 to 50, but 50% in India and most places is almost impossible to achieve. So unless it's in the driest months, if you're in Delhi, then yeah, sure, in the summer. But most places will not really drop below 50. So 50 to 55, that kind of a range is all right. And you'll notice it. You'll
Mm-hmm.
see the action going up over a period of 1 week or
Yeah.
2 weeks in the monsoon
Mm-hmm.
season. Now,
Mm.
if you catch it early on, you can control that. If you wait till halfway through the monsoon season and say, "Arey, now the action is there," at that point
I need to
it's too
contact
late to
Karan.
do much. What is Karan going to do? At that point, it's then you just sit and wait it out because 2 3 months later, as it dries out again, it is going to drop. The
Hmm.
problem is in the monsoon season, if I do something and I replace the saddle to bring your action down, it'll play fine during the monsoons. And then after monsoons, when everything dries, your
Ah,
strings will drop even more. And then you'll be
again, you have to
buzzing
set
all
up.
over and you'll say, what?
Hmm.
Then you'll say, what has this idiot done? I just got it fixed from him 2 months ago and now everything is buzzing.
Karan!
So, and then you explain. And you're like, man, this is why this is happening. But the short answer is it needs care. You need to take care of it, and the guitar will last. It'll outlast you, but you do have to take care of it.
Mhm.
Does that help?
Yeah, like caring for instruments is the thing. And then one tip for touring musicians, for touring, like how can they take care of their instruments, especially guitars, like whether it's acoustic, electric, bass.
For touring musicians, I mean, apart from the same, get a good case and keep it in there, there is really not much you can do when you're moving around because when
Mm.
you have shows in different cities, there's different climatic conditions. You've got sound checks in the middle of the day, sometimes in the heat, so you've got to put try and avoid leaving the guitars out there for too long, is all I can
Uh-huh.
say.
Mm-hmm.
Do your sound check, pull it off stage. A lot of
Mm.
times they just, the stands are on stage and then the guitars will be there for 4 hours. Avoid that.
Ah.
It's a shock to the wood. It's a shock
Mm.
to the system of the wood. It's not used to it. And anything that it is not used to will cause problems to it.
Mm-hmm. For
So if
sure.
your guitar has been in the sunlight since day one, it's fine in the sunlight. But then in a really cool and damp place, it'll have a bigger problem. If it's
Mm.
used to being in a cool and damp place and it suddenly goes out in the sun for too long, it'll have a problem. Anything that's an
Mm.
extreme change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that balance just needs to be taken care of. Apart from that, there's really not much you're going to do when you're on the move. If you're a big enough band to have a guitar tech, that's great. Most bands don't do that, but if you do, then that helps a lot, definitely.
If not, then call Karan.
If not, then call Karan. Leave me out of
Good.
repairs. No, call me if you want a guitar. Don't call me to fix your guitar. I've been trying to
Surrender.
run away from repairs for the last 5 years.
Well, like that was it. Like that was the questions that I don't have any scripts. I just asked no what questions I had. I mean, once again, like thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate. Like, I lovely talking to you. We just had a such a deep conversation with guitars and music and all. Any advice for me as well?
Any advice for you?
Hmm.
No, no, keep it going, man. I think you're doing an awesome job with these
Hmm.
interviews, and it's great that you've taken the initiative to actually talk to different people. It takes a lot of work to make something like this happen.
Hmm.
I'm well aware of what goes into planning something like this,
Hmm.
and to do it on a regular basis. So I think that's really, really commendable. And I truly wish you all the best going forward, man. I hope this really
Absolutely,
picks up
absolutely.
for you. Yeah,
Thank you so much once again for joining
it's been
in.
a pleasure.
Uh, Please, guys, I'm telling you, who are the listeners to this podcast, I'll leave BigFoot Guitars, everything, from pictures to everything, links in the description. Please do check them out. And if you like one, you can place an order on BigFoot Guitars. Okay, so yep, these guys make some fucking cool guitars. So no words against that. Okay? Once again, thank you so much,
Thank
Karan, for
you.
joining.
Cheers, man. I'll see you.
Cheers, cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.